on the bench today is a Fender Frontman 15G. It's a cool little practice amp. Bought it off of Marketplace for cheap. Power, no sound, Fender. That's what the tag says. So let's take a chance on it. Let's see. Input jack. It's missing the. It's all jacked up. Missing the nut. Everything else looks pretty good. A little nick right there, so maybe this thing got knocked over and that input jack got bashed up, because it just seems that way. And this corner codex coming off just a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit of a raised piece of wood there. Maybe a little separation. We'll look inside. We're going to try the auxiliary in. Got hooked to the iPad. Turn it on. We got buzz. We got light. Let's see if we got a little BB King.
Congratulations. Your
advertisement
and your money are off to college, and you don't know how you're going to pay for it. Just ask your home. Your home's got equity, and with Rocket Mortgage, you can use it to get cash quickly.
Okay, it's got some home. Skip. Okay, home went away. Just need to tighten that connection a little bit. Okay, auxiliary volume. Oh, that's the drive. Okay, I guess auxiliary doesn't really change except for the volume on the player. Well, that's weird. I guess the auxiliary, the volume does not work on it, which seems really weird. It's only can be controlled by the volume coming in off your device. Like, I've got these volumes turned. I got everything turned all the way down. Turn that down. Turn that up, there's nothing. That up, there's nothing. Not surprised. Interesting. Maybe it's supposed to be like that. I got a guitar cable plugged in. And we weren't getting any signal, but now we are getting some signal. And the gain really affects it. The gain's all the way down. And we still get a little signal. I have a feeling this volume knob is not working. I can turn it up to 10 and I can squat, and it doesn't affect the auxiliary channel, so I think something's wrong with that pot. That up, drive select. Yeah. But that shouldn't need to be on 10. Okay, I'll have to take it apart and see what we got going on. Seems like we got failures in volume and input jack. From the back, Fender 15G Frontman, made in Indonesia. 1A02 1602, maybe 2002. Who knows? Not sure if that 02 is what that means. Something kind of scratched on that, probably just random. It says 38 watts. Alright, I got the screws out. Let's see what we got inside. Okay. All chipboard cabinet. Didn't bother to paint it black, I guess because they closed back cab. You're not going to see it. FR15 little 8-inch speaker. Little angled board. We got vented baffle, all chipboard. Looks like we got quick connects on our power. And what else have we got in there? A lot of quick connects. Let's see, that might be a heat sink. There's where our damaged area should be. We'll have to get it out and see. But I can move. I can wiggle that input jack. It doesn't seem quite right. We'll check the solder joints and everything too. See what we got. And I really can't tell till we get the chassis out whether we got separation on the wood up in that corner or not. If so, we might be able to put some glue in there and tap it down and clamp it. It might have just been factory glued that way too, with a little bit of a bump here. Not a big deal. Note more to myself than anything. Green for ground on the bottom, black on the left, and white on the right. Got a little better light in here now. Can see a little better. Got alpha pots. That's cool. I don't know if these caps are IC. Fender likes to use the IC, but maybe these aren't, which would be a good thing. And an internal fuse, and it must not be blown because things were working. I went ahead and tested the speaker, the 9-volt battery, and made sure that the black was negative and the white was positive. When I hooked up the negative to that side and positive this side, the speaker went out with the 9-volt battery. So I went ahead and marked it plus and minus. I kind of wish speaker companies would do it. Some do, some don't. It just seems like a good idea so people don't screw stuff up. Chassis appears to be mounted with 2 screws that go to the baffle, and then 1 screw up here that I think just goes to this side of the handle. I'll undo those 3 first and see what we got. Taking the one out didn't do it. Turns out the other one is connected to the chassis too. So let's take that out. After getting all the screws out, it was still a tight pull out. It didn't use. We got some rust there, rust on the chassis, and we had rust on this one, the left bracket holder there. So my guess is somebody spilled a drink on it at some point in the past. Maybe they fried something else. Maybe this won't be as easy as a repair as we thought, but whatever. Worst case scenario, if we can't get that chassis working, we'll scrap it, paint the inside of this, and then put it in a little tube amp, which is kind of what we bought this for to begin with. But being this might be an easy fix on these chassis, and my nephew could use a little practice amp, if we get it fixed, I might just give it to him. But if not, we're going to put a little tube amp in this chassis. Actually, not a tube amp in the chassis, but a tube amp in the cabinet. I don't think the chassis is worth messing with. It's not really real. So I don't know. I don't really see any separation here. Nothing that I can put glue in and clamp. So maybe this little mess up here is just factory. These things aren't exactly high end. I think it caused maybe a little separation there in the Tolex. This side's tight like it should be, but probably just a factory thing. Might hit it with a rubber mallet, see if we can't get it to go down and tighten up a little bit. I whacked that with the mallet a good number of times and it did nothing. It didn't move, so that's just from the factory. That's just the way they glued it up. No biggie. Went ahead and took the 2 screws out of the side that hold the baffle in, and I raised the baffle up just out of curiosity. If I put another little amp in there and I wanted controls sticking out the front, what that would look like. I'd have to find a way to resecure the baffle, but it wouldn't be bad. Had a little bit of a curvature up there, but that's kind of cool. Or you could just take that out and make a new baffle that went all the way down, that would work too. And just have the controls in the back. Would work. The amp I've got in mind to maybe put in there is this little Silvertone amp, a couple of 12AX7s, and I think it's a 6AQ5 or something like that output, a 5Y3. I built another one into a little Vibro Champ before, and I was thinking maybe I'd put this one in there. It won't fit right now with those little blocks in there, but if you pop those blocks out, it'd probably slide right in there just about perfect. It would be doable. Now that this is out of the chassis, we can see in here a little bit better. Let's see. Move this whole thing down here. Oh yeah. Look at that solder joint up there moving up and down. So that one's definitely loose. Maybe that's it. Maybe we just tighten that one. Because we did get some signal, just not quite right. And that should be that volume pot in question. I really can't tell. I think I'm going to have to pull this whole thing out to get a good look at, because we still can't get to it without pulling the board and undoing every doggone socket, not socket, that pot. I hate that these are board mounted, but that's how they do it. Whatever. I never worked on solid state stuff before, but from tubes, I know you always check the filter caps and make sure they don't have any voltage on them. So I got this on ground, and I checked the other lead on the terminals of those big filter caps, and I got no voltage. So I guess it drains out, which is good. We're safe. Took off all the nuts. We're missing a plastic nut for the input, and the metal sizes aren't the same. So if we end up reusing this jack, we'll need to get a new nut for it. And all the washers off. Big plastic nut on the headphone jack. And I did test the headphone jack. It worked too. Now let's see what we got left to unscrew. These two screws, and maybe that's it. And we'll just have to leave it connected to this, or actually maybe just cut that zip tie and pull that connector out. One last little screw holding it right in there between the auxiliary jacks. And then we actually put these two screws back in and took these off here. So now we're mostly free. Let's see what's going on over here. We're going to undo the quick connects on that, and then I think the board will come loose. It's kind of hanging up on that. And that's the power switch, and it doesn't want to just come out easy. So we got two whites on the left, blue one on top, the clear one on the bottom, two blacks on the right, blue one on top, and blue one on the bottom. May not matter. Just to be certain, I'm going to put a little bit of a silver Sharpie T on the two top ones just to make sure we get them back in the right spots. White on the left, black on the right. Okay, now I got the board out, set to the side. We're going to leave that on there. And it's still connected to the transformer. We can at least now get to it and see what we got. Okay, this is that input jack. We definitely have damaged solder joints. That one on the left, it's got a big crater in it. This one on the right, it's got a big hole in it. I think that's the one I could see the lead bouncing up and down in. That one there is cracked on the left. The only one that might be good is that one in the middle. This is that volume knob that's not working. And right in there in the middle, we got a cracked solder joint. Second one, focus, might have a crack. We're going to reflow those three spots right there and see, kind of take a look at the rest of this board. From quick glance, the rest of the board looks pretty good. And if there was a spill where that rust was before, the chassis protected the board from it, and it never got to the board. So that's good. Most of the rest of these I think look okay. Little hole there, we'll have to do something about that one. What is that? That's the, I think that's where the power comes in. Okay, fire up the soldering iron, see what we get. Really hard to see, but I'm pretty sure one of those big blades is actually broke free from the plastic on this jack, so I'm going to go ahead and desolder all those and pull that jack out and see if it can be fixed. And if there's enough room, we might be able to just put in a regular good jack and then just run wires to these. Figure out which one is which. My guess would be that and that are ground and that are signal. We'll have to investigate. Yep, we were right. It's a shorting jack, as it should be. And this big pad is ground still. But these two little pads are no longer grounded with the guitar cable in. This one's still also ground. Come on, honey, you just went off. Now it's my meter being goofy. Yeah, and then you're getting continuity there. I think this thing needs new batteries. Ground, ground, no ground, no ground, ground. Okay, we got it out. We ended up needing to put the soldering station at 680 and then use a little bit of a solder wick and a solder sucker. Not too bad. Looks okay. I don't think we ruined anything. Now this, on the other hand, the middle two, this one and this one are the input. This is ground and that's ground. This front ground one broke off a little bit and this input is way broke off. So I think what we need to do is I'll try and put it back in there and see if these are long enough if I shove it all the way in and can solder it. If not, we're gonna need a new jack. And either way, we need new nut for this jack, and I might be able to just wire in a regular jack and then it won't be board mounted. It won't have the issues in the future. I put the board back in and there was plenty of room for this regular Switchcraft self-grounding jack to go in there and run a couple wires. So that's just what we're gonna do instead of ordering a part. I've already got that on hand, and that's the better solution anyway, so it'll be off the board for your input jack, and we'll see if we can't get this thing to work then. But I don't have any more time today. Come back another day. Oh, there it is, installed. A real jack, non-board mounted. Just needs only 2 wires. There were 4 spots. There were 2 grounds and 2 inputs for the old plastic jack, but we just used 1 of each. Soldered it up underneath there, and we had to put a one of those big biting washers in there too, so it wouldn't spin. Since it was pretty smooth, it needed that. But anyway, now it's a good jack. Had a real hard time getting this chassis out, and then even a harder time getting it back in. So it actually took a file and filed out just a little bit of that wood. So this will hopefully go in a lot better. There it is, all back together with the new input jack. And I think we're going to do one more mod to this since I like it, and I want to be able to send it out to a different speaker cab, a bigger speaker. We're going to put this speaker jack. It's going to be a grounding switch on the back of it. and then when we plug into it, it'll turn this speaker off. We can run it to a bigger cab, so that'd be pretty cool. Change of plans on the speaker output jack. We're going to do 2 jacks on the back. One of them is going to be a speaker driven line out with a 470 ohm resistor to ground and a 47K resistor on the input, just like the Gibson GA19 RVT. I think some of the Falcons also have that line out on it. And we're going to take this cover plate and put 2 1/4-inch jacks in it, and then we'll put it probably right there on the back. This was just a metal cover plate that I had. I drilled holes in it and then put some flat back black Rust-Oleum paint on it. So if we're just doing one, we'd just use that, which I got off Amazon. But since I'm doing 2, I'm just kind of customize this, and it ought to work pretty good. Here is the schematic for the speaker-driven line out. Like I said, 470 ohms on the to ground side of the jack, and a 47K on the signal side. And it sounds pretty good. I had it test clipped in with these alligator clips to the Polytone amp, and it made the Polytone sound like a Fender. It was cool. Okay, that's where I'm going to put the cover plate. Mark the holes and drill them, and use a big paddle bit to do, I think, 7/8, and that should fit our jack fairly snug, but I think it'll be just right. I didn't really want to go any bigger the way the other holes were. If I'd went any bigger, like a 1-inch, wouldn't have any room left over for these outer holes. It'll be a little tight, but it should work. Well, I've got it all wired in. I didn't show any of the wiring. Looks a little complicated, but it's not that bad. Speaker wires come in. I had to extend them. Ground and positive. Positive goes to the positive of the jack. This is the going to be the speaker extension jack. So the positive comes in here. As long as there's nothing plugged in, the grounding jack there will send it to the switch lug, and the switch lug is the red, which comes back and powers the cabinet speaker. So the cabinet speaker will always be on until you plug something in, and then it will disengage that blade there on the switch, and no longer will the signal be going from the switch to there, but only to the tip for the new speaker you plugged in. Then we've also got now for the line out, we just come off of the hot and go to the 47K, and then the ground is the 470 ohm, comes back, ties to the ground, and the ground comes in here and then ties back to the ground with the red wire back to the ground of that speaker. So everything's grounded and should work. Speaker's not labeled how many ohms, so checking on the ohm meter, 6.7, so basically an 8 ohm speaker. And we'll make our little label for 8 ohms. There it is, all buttoned up with the new switches on it, or the jacks for out, line out, extension speaker. Cleaned up on the front. We got that new input jack that is not wired direct to the board, so it'll be better. Anyone ever trips over a cord, might not actually break like the old one did. Time to give it a test. volume on 4 and gain on 3. That drive sounds okay like that in that little bitty speaker, but we'll put on an extension speaker in a minute. I tested earlier, extension speaker out when that gain and drive channel sound real nice on a bigger speaker. This little one just doesn't really do it. Now we are through the line out switch in the back of the Fender, and I haven't changed any of the settings on the amp. And we're into that Polytone S12, which is another solid state amp. It's like a jazz style amp. It doesn't really usually sound real Fendery or real bluesy. Just gotta adjust the volumes a little bit. Sounds pretty doggone good, and that Polytone doesn't usually sound anything like that. Then we'll change the clean channel and play a little more Fendery clean. Still won't have like reverb because this doesn't have reverb, but actually I can put the reverb on the Polytone and I will. Now we got this little Fender practice amp with the 8-ohm extension speaker jack hooked into that wheat grill cloth cabinet. It's got two 12-inch warehouse speakers in it. Turn the bass down. It's only on it's on 5. Put it to 4. Now I got the gain cranked up. I still only got the gain volume on 3. Into the 1976 twin reverb through the input, so through the line out of the practice amp into the input of the twin reverb, and it's not as gritty as I would have thought. It's almost like the twin reverb keeps it a little bit clean. Doesn't get that gritty at this low volume either, so it is still cool.